Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightly. And in fact, if you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you would already know that the title of tonight's show is The Ties That Bind. But that title is covering a wonderful lunar eclipse that we are having tomorrow that is actually very harshly aspected. So how do we put together the ties that bind when actually there are going to be 6 planets in a grand cross, all harshly aspecting each other in the fixed signs? Remember, fixed signs don't budge. And so there can be a sort of a chaos going on under this lunar eclipse because it is so poorly aspected. And yet the title is The Ties That Bind, because even though we can be sort of running up against each other, or there can be sudden unexpected upsets, or even some sort of unexpected explosion or eruption going on during the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, we can still end up with a certain amount of strength that will carry us through. And that is because tomorrow, the lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, means that the moon is at 5 degrees of Aquarius, and it is conjuncting Mars, that planet of war and aggression and jealousy and hate and envy. And it is at 4 degrees. Mars is retrograde in Aquarius. And those 2 planets are also conjuncting that unlucky south node of the moon at 6 degrees. So it's Mars at 4 degrees, the lunar eclipse at 5 degrees, and the unlucky south node of the moon at 6 degrees. And they are all opposing 2 planets in Leo, because under a full moon, the moon opposes the sun. So the sun is in Leo at 5 degrees. The difference here is that the sun is the ruler of Leo. It is stronger, actually, even than this lunar eclipse. And then Mercury is also in Leo in later degrees, and it is retrograde. The problem is that there are planets in the fixed financial signs that are harshly aspecting these 4 planets too, because Jupiter in Scorpio is squaring them, and Uranus in Taurus is also squaring them. And so that means that there can be a lot of people that can be caught in some sort of intense standoff about a financial situation right now. And whether you are young or old, rich or poor, or employed or not, there can be some sort of treachery going on concerning finances. And that's because the financial signs, Scorpio and Taurus, are being harshly affected by the 2 planets in Aquarius and the 2 planets in Leo. So these 6 planets simply mean that there can be people around that are really trying to have something go their way, and they could be trying every kind of weapon at their disposal to go ahead and get something. And it could be based on their greed or their hate or their envy or their jealousy, or it could be that some people may want to initiate an act of war right now. And that would be too bad, because it's the ties that bind that are going to hold right now. And people who are starting things very suddenly and wanting to get everything their own way are going to get nowhere. But it means they're going to hit a brick wall. And they're going to hit a brick wall because there are 6 planets in these fixed signs which are so powerful on their own. And when they're harshly aspected, that means whoever's going to try something is going to meet very stiff resistance. However, there is a lot of strength in the water and the earth signs. And so it simply means that in the water signs, even though the sun is no longer in Cancer, Jupiter is still in Scorpio, which rules justice and survival, and it's a fixed financial sign, and it's direct. And it is trining Neptune in Pisces, which is retrograde right now and rules things behind the scenes. And so when the truth comes out about an imposter or a cover-up or a conspiracy, it simply means that justice will be done, and there will be some money around to correct a mistake, to correct something that had been hidden that shouldn't have happened, There'll be a way to fix that, which is good. And then the reason why the ties that bind really do hold fast is because there is such strength in a grand trine in the earth signs, which are very practical and realistic. And so Uranus in Taurus is trining the ruler of Taurus, Venus, which is now in Virgo. And that simply means that there can be some sudden money. Remember, Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarius rules sudden surprising change as well as the future. There can be some sudden money around to apply to the basic needs of somebody. Perhaps it could be the basic needs of somebody that has health problems. So it could, and Virgo rules health. Or it could be that there can be some sudden money available for a job of some sort, or to increase a person's training and make them more highly skilled in their employment. So all of that is good. And then that Uranus and Venus in Virgo are trining Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. Those two planets are retrograde, and Saturn is the strong one out of the four here because Saturn rules Capricorn. And that is why the ties that bind will hold fast. And that is because there can be people around now that are very loyal to old friends or to powerful connections that can make sure that things remain steady and secure. And that is because of the four planets that are in the earth signs, they are in exact trine. In other words, Uranus in Taurus at 3 degrees is exactly trine Saturn in Capricorn at 4 degrees. And Venus in Virgo at 19 degrees is exactly trine Pluto in Capricorn at 20 degrees. I mean, these four planets are really getting along well right now. And that is why the ties that bind will remain secure. And the people that are trying to push and have their own way and to do things that may have started rather suddenly are going to get nowhere with it. And so the lunar eclipse is very chaotic, but it isn't going to produce anything substantial except sudden surprises or an explosion or even a cyber attack or some sort of hacking, because Aquarius rules computers, and it rules the internet, and it rules space as well, and aviation and electricity. So that things could go wrong there, and they could be considered sort of an act of war, but it's not going to amount to anything in the end, because there is so much strength in the earth signs that the ties that bind, particularly old ties or connections to powerful people that have been in place for a long time, remain loyal and secure, which is good for all of us. Okay, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, for you, I think things are easing up a little bit for you right now, Aries, and that is because there aren't so many planets in the cardinal signs anymore, and there have been since the beginning of the year, and that has proven to be quite challenging to you on many different levels. But right now, there's nothing in your sign, there's nothing in Cancer, there's nothing in Libra, and in fact, the only two planets that can be challenging you now are Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, which are both retrograde, and they're going to stay challenging you until 2020. That influence is not going to go away. And so yes, you're going to have to do things according to other people's wishes, and these people would be older or they would be very experienced and know what they want, and you would more or less have to conform to that. And so that could cramp your style, but actually a lot of the other pressures that you have been facing throughout the spring have eased now, and that can be good for you. And another thing that's good for you is that the sun has just come into Leo, and along with Mercury, it's trining your sun. So there can be some very good news. Remember, Mercury rules news about children or sports or the entertainment world or love affairs or something that seems a little speculative. Although I warn you, Aries, this is not a good time to gamble, but still there can be some very good news. And at least there can be some good news or an invitation coming your way about some sort of a party or summer fun. So that would be nice. So I think that could be enjoyable for you. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, as far as the ties that bind go, they're really going to affect you. And in fact, even though you have Uranus in your sign, which is the planet of sudden surprising change and rebellion and freedom, still, Taurus, I advise you to stick to things that are familiar to you, that represent not only the ties that bind, but loyal friends and loved ones, and also people in powerful positions, because they can look upon you very favorably right now. Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn are trining your sun, and also your health can improve, and certainly the health of your bank book could improve simply by you being a little bit more careful with your accounting and your budgeting. And and that's because Venus in Virgo is trining your sun. So this grand trine in earth signs is going to benefit you greatly if you let it, Taurus. In other words, instead of stressing what you want, go along with the things that have brought you comfort and security in the past. And in fact, if you have a long-term plan that has been in existence for a while, or a long-term relationship that has been in existence for a while, stick with it, Taurus, because it can really make you feel very secure and steady. Those are the ties that bind. But on the other hand, this full moon in Aquarius was squaring your sun, and so is Mars. So that means they're squaring Uranus in your sign, and that is an indication of danger. So you have to be very careful. Try not to be around anything that could explode, and certainly be very careful when you're on the internet that you don't have, or you're not experiencing identity theft or anything like that. And then the Sun and Mercury are squaring your sun, which means that not everything is going to work out your way as far as loved ones go or children. There may be extra expenses connected with them that you'd have to pay for. And then Jupiter in Scorpio is opposing your sun. So yours is a fixed sign, and it's caught up in this harsh configuration, a grand cross of 6 planets in fixed signs. So you're going to run up against other people that have their own point of view, and they won't agree with you, Taurus. And that's why you need to stick with the ties that bind. Because in the end, I don't think that people who are being too pushy right now are going to get anywhere with it. But they're going to create a lot of noise. And if you want to avoid that, just stick to the ties that bind, because they're holding right now, and that's where your security can come from. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, you know you're in a sort of good spot, and that is because the lunar eclipse in Aquarius with the moon and Mars there are trining your sun sign. And that simply means that even though there can be a lot of treachery around and stress about the uncertainty of financial conditions right now, I think that even if somebody gets real aggressive and starts pushing their point of view, they won't get anywhere, but they're not going to hurt you either, Gemini, and they're not going to hurt Libra, because that lunar eclipse is trining your sun, which is a good aspect. And so that means that, oddly enough, you might benefit right now from somebody else who's sort of overreacting or being overly aggressive, and they're going to blow it. And when they fail, that may be of benefit to you. And so if I were you, Gemini, I'd sort of stand back and just watch the parade go by, because you're not going to get hurt by anything right now. The only thing that could really hurt you is that Venus in Virgo is squaring your sun, which means you have to get a little more serious about your health and get in better shape if you can, and summer's a great time to do that. And then Neptune in Pisces is squaring your sun, which means you can't trust everybody, but you know that's been going on for a while. So I think you're going to benefit greatly, even if there is something chaotic that occurs. I think that you're going to handle it really well. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, remember I said the strength is in the water signs and really in the earth signs right now. And so Jupiter in Scorpio is still trining your sun, although there aren't any planets in your sign anymore. And Neptune in Pisces is also trining your sun. And that simply means that there can be more money coming to you. And it can be the result of some sort of a secret that is coming out in the open. And I'm not questioning whether a cover-up is going to be revealed or an imposter is going to be exposed. It will happen. It's just a question of when. And when a mistake is known to everybody, there will be money around to correct it, and you could be involved in that in one way or another, which is great. So I think that as long as you are sort of doing your homework or doing your research right now and staying away from really aggressive people, there could be instead some involvement with you and children or sports or the entertainment world, because the sun is now in Leo along with Mercury right ahead of your sun sign. So I think you've got some good times ahead of you right now, Cancer, and not as much pressure because there aren't as many planets in the cardinal signs. However, Saturn and Pluto are in Capricorn are opposing your sun sign. So when and if there is some sort of corporate or government decision or change in policy or budget cuts, they could affect you. And yet, I think that you're going to be okay, particularly financially. I don't think you're going to get hurt. All right, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time when you can be sort of perking up, and that is because the sun has just entered your sign and it rules your sign. And the sun is the giver of life. So I think you can be sort of getting a second wind, or you can be very enthusiastic about starting something new. And your timing's pretty good with that, Leo, because there will be a solar eclipse in your sign on August 11th. And solar eclipses always denote new beginnings. Whereas tomorrow's lunar eclipse with Mars there in Aquarius is opposing your sun and Mercury in your sign. And a lunar eclipse, since the moon rules women, sometimes indicates one woman goes and another woman comes. So there could be a change in a relationship with a woman coming up right now. And the funny thing is, something that started suddenly where somebody wants everything all their own way, that's what's not going to happen anymore, because whoever is stressing their point of view to the exclusion of considering anyone else's point of view is going to get nowhere right now. And certainly they're not going to get anywhere with you. Whereas the ties that bind do pertain to you as well. And even though there is a somewhat contentious financial situation in your life right now, Leo, that is unresolved, don't worry, it will get resolved after the solar eclipse in your sign. And that is because Jupiter in Scorpio is squaring your sun, and so is Uranus in Taurus. So things will work out pretty soon. I think they'll work out in August, as a matter of fact, or even September. And so right now, you just have to be very wary of somebody who has explosive ideas or emotions, or is really just going overboard right now, because they're not your type, Leo. In other words, they are all talk and they have no substance to back it up. And so they may have come into your life suddenly, but they're going to leave just as suddenly, because the ties that bind will certainly be upheld. And certainly that is what you would like, because yours is a fixed sign, and it does rule, you know, children, and it rules sports. It rules things that everybody can join in a happy way. And so I think that things are going to improve for you, but I would be real careful right now, and don't take a gamble on anything, Leo. Stick to the ties that bind. Those are the secure ones, and they've been in place a long time, so stick with that. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time when the ties that bind are going to involve you directly. And the reason why is that yours is an earth sign. You have Venus in your sign. Lucky you, Virgo. That means you can certainly want to improve yourself in some way, maybe beautify yourself in some way, or go on a vacation and relax, or just do things that are good for you and make you quietly happy. That would be great. But there can also be some sudden money around, since Uranus in Taurus is trining your sun, and that can be used for the basic needs of a child, or something on your job, or increasing your training so that you can have higher skills that would make you more promotable. That would be great as well. And then Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn are also trining your sun, and that means that people that you have known a long time, and this could be in your career or at home, or in the community, and powerful connections are certainly going to work in your favor right now, Virgo. So you may be looking at a pending promotion on your job or some sort of community recognition, which would be great. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, you benefit too by this lunar eclipse because the full moon and Mars tomorrow are trining your sun. And so you benefit in a funny way, Libra, because somebody's going to overplay their hand. Somebody's going to insist on having everything their own way. Somebody might rebel. Somebody might explode. Whatever they do, first of all, it's not actually aimed at you. It's a way of trying to manipulate you, and they're going to get nowhere. You're not going to fall for it, Libra. So you could sort of stand back and, just like Gemini, you could sort of watch the parade right now as somebody really tries their very hardest to do what they want, and yet they're not going to succeed because it's the ties that bind that are going to hold us all together. And these are well-established ties from the past, old friendships and old reliable connections. And so I think that, you know, if you want to just concentrate on that, you will be doing fine. But if you want to react or overreact to somebody else who's sort of losing it right now, I think you're going to be wasting your time, and it would be good to avoid that if you can. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time when justice will be done because Jupiter in your sign is trining Neptune in Pisces, and that means that the truth will have to come out, and when an imposter is exposed, there can be some money to correct a mistake that they have been making behind the scenes. So that's fine. But the lunar eclipse actually squares your sun. The Sun and Mercury in Leo square your sun, and Uranus and Taurus oppose your sun sign. You are caught up in this grand cross of 6 planets in fixed signs that aren't getting along at all. And that simply means, Scorpio, that you could hit a brick wall if you were involved in any conspiracy or cover-up behind the scenes, and it would be quite expensive for you. So this is a time when I urge you not to gamble on anything and not to argue about money. You would be on the losing end right now, so try to be as cautious as possible. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, this is a time when you can be really getting some wonderful news, and that could really make you happy. And that's because the Sun in Leo, along with Mercury, which rules the news, is trining your sun. Now, Mercury is retrograde, and there are 4 other planets besides that. There's a total of 5 retrograde planets. The news you get may have been delayed, but it could be good news. And also, it could put you back on a good path that you would like to be on. So I think you're going to be able to make some positive move as early as August 11th when there's a solar eclipse in Leo trining your sun. In the meantime, why don't you stay away from anything that looks dangerous or is going too fast? This is not the time to be tempted in any way by anything, Sagittarius. Simply stand back right now and pay a little bit more attention to your health. Venus is squaring your sun in Virgo. And also, don't trust everybody right now because Neptune in Pisces is squaring your sun. So if I were you, I'd keep real quiet and sort of start making a wish list of something that you've got your heart set on, because it might come true under the Leo eclipse that's coming up soon. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, this is a time when the ties that bind really are going to hold fast and be steady and secure, and you will be involved in that, Capricorn. And that is because the grand trine in the earth signs is so powerful, but actually among the 4 planets, Uranus in Taurus, which is trining your sun, Venus in Virgo, which is also trining your sun, and Saturn and Pluto, which are in your sun sign, it's Saturn, your own ruler, that is the strongest planet there because it's at home in the sign it rules. And it's retrograde, meaning that you've got to sort of shrink something, or you've got to go back and really tie up loose ends. With 5 retrograde planets, it's so much better to finish something, and also to trim your budget a little bit so that it's a little bit easier to live within your income, which is something you always like to do. So you are security prone, Capricorn. This is a good time for your career. It's also a good time for you to really sort of get your budgets in shape and stick to the ties that bind, which are old friends and powerful connections that you have had for a long time. You should sort of reignite them right now and make contact with people. They would be very happy to hear from you. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, the full moon lunar eclipse tomorrow is in your sun sign. And remember, it's at 5 degrees. It is conjunct Mars, which is retrograde at 4 degrees. And it's also conjuncting that unlucky south node of the moon. And they are all opposing the sun and Mercury in Leo and being squared by Jupiter in Scorpio and Uranus in Taurus. You better not take a gamble with anything right now, Aquarius. But if you have been sort of having a rebellious feeling or wanting to really do something your way right now in sort of an aggressive, hurry up style, and if you just sort of want to move in on somebody else's territory, I advise you to step back and think twice. I don't think you're going to. I think you're going to do what you want, Aquarius, because you got a lot of energy right now with Mars in your sign. But it won't get you anywhere. And so it would, particularly if you're taking a gamble on anything, you might lose your shirt, Aquarius, and that is because the ties that bind are going to hold. And no matter how much you may rebel against a set way of doing something or following an old plan that had been in place for a long time or protocols that have withstood the test of time, you'll have to do it. And so you may not be happy right now about a financial matter, Aquarius, because I don't think it's going to go your way. It doesn't mean you're broke or anything, but if I were you, I wouldn't argue. I would stick to the ties that bind or a well-established plan that has been in place a long time, because it's going to hold no matter what you do. And so I would save yourself a little wasted effort right now and just try to be as fair and balanced as you can be. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, this is a time when if you were trying to hide something, I don't think you could, because Jupiter in Scorpio is trining your sun and Neptune is retrograde in your sun sign, along with 4 other planets that are now retrograde. And that simply means that, you know, things are going to start to come out. Whenever planets go retrograde, and particularly so many of them, it means that the planets are going back over ground they've already covered before, and that's going to expose more and more information. And so you got to quit kidding yourself about something, Pisces, and instead try to admit the mistakes that you have made in order to bring love closer to you. Because you know, an awful lot of people, including yourself, can be willing to forgive and forget as long as someone says they're sorry and they won't do something again. So if you have been sort of overreaching a little bit or kidding yourself about a health habit that really is sort of detrimental, you got to cut that out right now, Pisces, and instead get back to the ties that bind, because those are the ones that are going to hold for a long time to come. And just remember, you can correct anything as long as you admit it first. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show, and you can read our blog and hear our podcast on our website, starborninstitute.org. Bye.